Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the leader you aspire to be. Join us on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and inspiration as we explore the world of leadership and personal growth. In each episode, we will explore the art and science of effective leadership, bringing you insights, stories, and strategies from experts and thought leaders across various industries. And now your hosts, Dawn Marie Bornhammer, Maisha B. Hoy, Janelle E. Taylor, and Dr. Sharon H. Porter. Welcome to Leading with Purpose, the podcast that's dedicated to helping you become the leader you aspire to be as you lead, empower, inspire, and achieve. I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter, Editor-in-Chief of Vision and Purpose Lifestyle Magazine.
Hi, everyone. I am Maisha B. Hoy, CEO of BSHG LLC, which manages MaishaLemonadeStand.com, QBOB, and Customer First Marketing.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dawn Bornhammer. I'm the CEO and Chief Impact Officer for Mission Inspired Consulting. We're happy to have you here.
And today, we are elated to have our wonderful guest. He is Mr. David C. Olcott. Mr. Olcott is founder, president, and CEO of Samurai Success Incorporated, an international executive, organizational, and personal coaching firm headquartered in Denver, Colorado. Throughout his more than 35 years of professional coaching experience, Mr. Olcott has worked with numerous individuals, organizations, and companies throughout the United States and Hong Kong. His coaching focuses on developing strategies and structures that provide for sustainable growth and productivity. Mr. Olcott, we want to say welcome to Leading with Purpose.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm truly honored.
Absolutely. We are really excited. We have unbelievable guests each week. And so we are just excited to continue that momentum with you. So thank you so much for being here. And I have the pleasure of giving or asking the first question. And I really just want to know about the start of your journey in coaching and creating your company. Can you take us back and let us know how it all began?
About to show all my age, I guess, in this whole conversation. So, it's interesting because when we were talking to coaches, interviewing coaches today, we asked that similar question, like, when was the very first time you recognized that there was a calling to coaching? And it's very all the board. So for mine, I noticed that people started asking my advice in high school. And of course, I was terrible at giving advice because I really didn't have experience to support what I was talking about. And so that kind of put me on a journey that sometimes I was helping people and sometimes I was really not helping people. And I really didn't want to keep giving advice that put people in bad situations. So that began my journey of getting involved in politics and banking and law, and then getting involved with working with Tony Robbins and finding out what was the best way to truly be in service to others, because that's the name of our company called Samurai Success. And samurai, loosely translated, means in service of others. So the beginnings of this has really brought me to the ending here and the beginning moving forward with coaching. The best coaching you can do is really working on you. And by working on you, you can truly be in service to others. And that probably, Doctor, that was probably the biggest breakthrough, because I thought coaching was supposed to be about me taking all these years of experience and then sharing my experience with you. Now, there's some of that. But most of our clients don't really want to know me better. They want to know themselves better. So how do I get out of the way so that I can truly be in service? And that's been my journey so far.
I really love that, because when you do get out of your way, we sometimes often think that, like you said, when we stand in our way, things are blocked, right? And so once you learn that, things open up. And so that's really what coaching is all about. It's a learning to get out of your way so that you can then help others. So thank you for that.
All right, David, I did a deep dive on some of your Instagram today, and I really, I got you some views. I got you some
Watch
likes.
out.
something you just said about you realizing that you were in high school and you built this business, Samurai Success, over 35 years. What is motivating you or inspiring you to continue to be in the service of others? What jazzes you and makes you go, oh yeah, did this today?
So early in my life, I was very fortunate to grow up in the Florida Keys, and the little dots on the end of Florida, right? And it was such an eclectic mix of people who lived there full time, but it was really a tourism and vacation place. And when people would come down, they were coming down and they were being on vacation. They had made their wealth or their empire somewhere else, but they were coming down and they were really relaxed. And of course, the Florida sun, and you get kind of crazy down there and you have a couple of drinks and you start speaking a totally different level of truth, right? So if you could be patient enough and talk to people, you found out amazing things. And I was just bombarded by all these different people coming into my world that I had a chance to interview about how they were becoming successful. So that's really where my journey began, in pure curiosity. And that's what continues today. I'm so fascinated by this place. Most importantly is us as humans, this physical realm that we live in, this faith-based duality, and this spiritual realm that affects all those things. So when I wake up every day, when I was interviewing with people, I heard this concept, this theme, this myth. And someone said to me, the greatest life you can ever live is being in service of another. And I got to tell you, I don't know why that struck me, but it did. As a matter of fact, not only did it strike me, it's haunted me. Because if I want to live this fabulous, glorious life, everybody around me, all my friends, all my family, the stories I was watching in movies and books was, no, you got to go and get the material stuff and you got to get this. It's all about you. And I just heard something that just flipped the switch. It was like truly being in service of another. Now, I didn't have a clue about how to adopt that. It just was there. It was just haunting me. And then, of course, when you read a lot of the spiritual manuals that are available on the planet, they talk about this theme, truly being in service, the greatest life you could live. So I was like, okay, well, if I want to live the greatest life I can live, how do I do that? How do I truly be in service? And it goes right back to the very first question. What I've learned through my experience of these 30 plus years is to truly be in service of another, you've got to get the hell, excuse my language, out of the way. So all of my stuff, right? If I'm dealing with all my stuff, all my traumas, all the events in my life, and believe me, I could bore you for the next 20 hours with the stuff that's happened in my life if I wanted to do that. And if you really wanted to hear it, which we really don't, because we got enough of our own stuff to deal with. So the idea here is if I can work on me, called healing, right? If I can heal all those events in my life, if I can rewrite the story of my past and relive things differently, then I can truly be present when you need me. As long as I have worked on me, gotten that out of the way, then I can truly be in service to you. So all of a sudden, those things started coming together in a way to apply that. And that's what this true seeking or knowledge has been based about, is how do I create a structure to help other people do that as well?
I love that answer. This is exactly what our podcast is all about. Hearing other stories about how people are leading with purpose. I can't help but market it all. That's what I do for a living. But yes, love it, love it, love it. And I can't wait to hear what Dawn's question will be for you too.
Well, you're certainly speaking my language, David, between spirituality and leadership and really leading people first. One of the things that I was captivated by was some of the framing I saw on your website about, at its core, Samurai Success is a research company. I would love for you to help our listeners understand the bridge between what they may assume research company equals and what you've curated and created at Samurai Success.
Again, wonderful question. Love the depth of this. So research company, what are we researching? Well, when people come to us as coaches, we realize there was a specific theme that people came to us about. They came in all kinds of different languages and different industries and all kinds of different approaches in life, cultures, gender, race, it didn't matter, but they were always saying the same thing. They wanted to change a behavior. And I was like fascinated by this because with all the different options that you could choose from going to see a coach, you want to change one behavior. And that was one of the keys thing is like, okay, if you want to change a behavior, you have to understand how behaviors work. Now, that's not always the approach that a lot of research companies do because they just want to go to the solution. What we found was that behaviors are actually the end of a conveyor belt of multiple things that have happened before that is causing that behavior to happen. And we had to discover through research what was causing that. So if your behaviors actually create your results and results over time create your destiny, then what's the thing causing this behavior to happen? And we've actually, if you will, downloaded, channeled a response to that, a solution to that we call the chain of command. And that chain of command is what the book is written on, the 2-book series. The first book has been published already, but the first one talks about these 6 swords of illumination. And these swords represent different life principles about how you can actually change experience, meaning, perspective, all the things that you want to be able to change in this world, because we've gone through this life believing that we want to change the world, when in actuality, the world is perfect the way it's designed. What we really want to change is the experience of that world. And that's the true gift we have. How do you do that? How do you do that behavior, Dave? That's what our research is about. And what's fascinating about it is that we don't realize that as dissimilar as we seem to be, we're actually not at all. We're actually doing all the similar behaviors. So what's causing that? The word that we use here at Samurai Success is called programming. And programming is part of your subconscious part of your brain, which most people don't realize. That being in the seminar business as I've been for a lot of years, people were going to these programs and then they were walking away and they were making huge life transformational decisions. Yet they weren't able to sustain that over a period of time. 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 3 months later, they were falling completely on their faces. And I was mortified, truthfully, because I was out there selling these programs. And I was like, what the heck is happening? Because successful people, if there's one thing they do really well, they sustain this stuff. They're really good at being able to stick to it. And we thought it was discipline. Truth is, it isn't about discipline. Discipline fades. It's like going to a seminar and knowledge fades. It's perishable. Discipline, motivation, willpower. Oh my gosh, the willpower that some of the people have, my own included, it fades. You know what doesn't fade? Your subconscious programming. What? How do I get to that? How do I get to that place where I could change that programming? Because that's the research we've discovered over the last 30 plus years is we now know that this programming is reprogrammable and you have permission to do it. The elements of that program are called the swords of illumination.
No, thank you for that, David. And I think it's really interesting to think about the underpinning of anyone's observation of something they want to solve for, right? So I have an organization, I'm inside an organization, I know that their culture needs a shift. And there are people that have taken an action that has led to where we are today. What is the underpinning of those individuals and how they move through the world and how do they interact with one another? And what does that conversation look like, sound like, and make the other person feel in order to understand why the culture is where it is? Because it didn't happen overnight. And so in order to come in and understand how you're going to help them and shift and change and move the direction of the better, they need to understand where they are and how they got there. And so I love that your research digs in to understand where that pain point, where that origin story comes from, so that you can rewrite the future for where that business can go. So thank you.
And that's a beautiful way of saying that, because there's such a thin but discernible line between therapy work and coaching. So in our world, again, simple definition, because I like being a third grader when it comes to this stuff, because life is complex enough as it is. So if I'm going to do therapy, that means I'm going to go work on stuff of my past to get me to the present moment. The present moment forward is about coaching. So that's what we tend to focus on. Doesn't mean we don't have to work through some stuff and help our clients be able to get through some of the past stuff, but really focusing on this idea that moving forward, what does this new story look like? And part of that story is our belief systems. the most important of those belief systems is your own personal self-created identity. And this was the mind-blowing research part of this. Of all the different spiritual masters I've been around, the teachers, the mentors, and I've been so thankful for every single one of them. So many of them were teaching me that I was here to discover who I was. Then I met a master who blew my mind, and that master helped me understand. And he said it in such a beautiful way. I remember him looking over the top of his glasses and kind of laughing this comforting knowingness laugh, like something like, you silly boy kind of thing, And he says, you're not here to discover who you are. You're here to create who you are. And when you start looking at successful people on this planet, you see that theme. If we're going to go Taylor Swift, or by the way, whether you like him or not, Donald Trump, these people know who they are. And you cannot talk them out of it. Whether you like them or don't like them, that's not what's important about this conversation. What's important about this is understanding how they put themselves together. How did they create this? How can I create that and do it in a totally different way with my moral code, with the way I want to approach life, how I want to experience things? Because the structure of that is identical.
No, thank you so much, David.
David, we know that the coaching landscape is forever changing. How do you ensure that Samurai Success stays relevant, and also are able to still be innovative?
So the clients that we attract are true entrepreneurs. And I'll tell you the one thing that to know about a true entrepreneur is that if it isn't their idea, they ain't going to do anything about it. So here's the question. As a coach, and I truly want to be in service of others, and I recognize that the client in front of me is only going to learn from their own personal verified experience. How do we help them do that in this business setting? Because they wouldn't be coming to us if they had all the ideas themselves. They would already be applying them. They wouldn't want coaching, wouldn't need coaching, right? So how do we help them make it their idea without manipulating them? Because no one likes to be manipulated, including entrepreneurs, but none of us do. So how do I help someone else have it be their idea without that manipulation? So we developed a system that actually helps people understand through their own personal verified experience that simply shows them this. When you have this type of programming and you do this process, you achieve this result. And we show them that through the 3 stages of our algorithm in coaching: people, processes, and profits. So we show them directly in the financial side that says, hey, when you do this process with this mindset, then you get this result. When you do this mindset with this process, you get this result. Which result do you like? And so it becomes their idea through the experience of it. So that's probably the most innovative thing that we've discovered here at Samurai Success, and then put that system together so that we can truly be in service of others and not have to have me in it, not to have my stuff in it, not to have my experience in it. The system actually shows this. And the incredible benefit of that is that your business model actually has a voice. Your business is an entity. We know this. We talk about, it's a business entity and it has its own this, and it has to have its own tax return in it. But we don't treat it like that. Samurai Success, we do. We actually create a structure so the business model actually tells you as the business owner what it needs, what it wants, what it desires. And it's fabulous because then there's a cooperation. You no longer are the business owner, you're the business steward. And that is a game changer for most of our clients.
I really love that. And it's really about listening to that, right? Listening to what is being told.
Yes.
That's the key. And not ignoring those things. I love that. Thank you so much for that insight.
Just one thought about this. I love that you just said that word. So beautiful. Listening. Do you know how hard it is to listen to someone else when you get all that mind chatter in your head?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know how hard it is to listen to somebody when you got all that stuff in your way that you haven't solved and healed and all that stuff?
Absolutely.
When you get that out of the way, it's easy to listen, because
Yeah.
I'm not bringing something you said doesn't trigger me into going, oh, I just got hooked and I need to say something about that. I can truly be present with you and make this moment the most important thing in my world. And I will tell you that my belief, totally my opinion, I believe that's what we're really in search of, getting that connection back, having those deeper conversations. But I have not found it in my lifetime where I can have those deeper connected conversations without being present
Yes.
person I'm talking to. Being present means I have to have gotten all that stuff out of the way, and then I can be here for you.
I love it. Thank you.
I have to tell you, David, I'm one of those entrepreneurs who believe in discipline, consistency.
You are a rare breed, my friend.
So it blew my mind when you talked about the subconscious programming or programming that is subconscious, right? Because now it's like I got to think a different way. I got to listen to what you're talking about and try to take it in. So maybe if you could share a story about a client that you had that's similar to me, that's like resistant, that knows they need help, but it's just not there yet, and how the sports of elimination helped them.
So one of the things we talk about here at Samurai Success is that your behaviors do create your results. And so this simple formula, B equals R, right? Your behaviors create your results. Now, every entrepreneur I've ever met hears that and agrees with it, but then they want to go do things their own way because that's just how they're built, right? So the thing that they have to get past is that there's a primary belief in every entrepreneur I've ever met that says, oh, if you can do it, I can do it. Now that is a huge motivational force, even in my own life, because I've looked for models of success, right? And then I say, oh, if you're doing it, now here's the interesting thing. Let's just take this to health. There are some outliers on this physical plane called human beings, just like you and I, who can smoke and drink every single day of their life, and it never affects them. Their hearts are fine. Their lungs are fine. Their bodies are fine. And they just die of natural causes that has nothing to do related to those things. But that's not the masses of us. The masses of us actually are affected by those things. So certain behaviors do get the masses of us certain results. And we've got to play that game for a while until you get to a state of abundance. And then once you understand how this place works and how you work, you can begin to change the rules and make it uniquely you. But in the beginning, it's really important to get to a level of abundance and wealth, if you will, to be able to understand, hey, I can do this a little differently, because when I do something and it causes me to get into scarcity and I stay in scarcity, well, it affects everything else in my life. So staying in that place of abundance is important. So one of the clients that we're working with just refused, absolutely refused. And by the way, he wanted to scale his business. He wanted to grow in volume and stuff like this. I said, well, listen, that if you study the most successful people on the planet, scaling is based upon quite a few things: structure and management team. Part of that structure and management team has to do with mindset, skill set, tool set. Great. No problem. He's got it. He's going. And then as soon as I hit him with the tool set, though, okay, we've got to get you using a physical calendar. His eyes rolled back in his head. He lost the deer in the headlights. What the hell? Discipline. I'm not gonna. And of course, he shook his head in the first coaching session, right? And then weeks after that, I'm like, hey, where's your calendar? What's going on here? And where's the planning? Because if you're going to scale your business, which increases your volume, and you don't want to sacrifice quality control and profitability, then you've got to have a planning system. You've got to be able to have a calendar. You got to know what's coming up, because you cannot manage all this stuff in your head, because we know that for sure, because your growth hasn't gone past this point. So something is causing it to stay at this point. We've got to introduce new beliefs and behaviors into that with this calendar. So he's been coaching with us for years now. Now, all of his team members all use calendars. Because this is how he figured, oh, I don't need to use it. I'm just going to have them all do it. But then we got to a point in his business where he's making $50-60 million a year kind of stuff, big numbers. And then something really amazing happened. It was so painful to watch. Mm-hmm. He missed one of the most important meetings he figures is his entire life. He felt that one meeting, and this is his verbiage, not mine, that one meeting that he missed could have doubled his business that day. He missed it. He was mortified. He immediately called. He did everything. He went after this client for another year after that missed appointment, and that person never showed up again. And that's a startling conversation. But his realizing this, guess what he did in the next coaching session?
Got a calendar. Gee whiz.
A missed opportunity like that is what entrepreneurs we dream of. We dream of those moments. You know that.
Mm-hmm.
And that moment was here for him, and then it was gone. Writing it down, just taking a moment, 5 seconds, could have totally shifted his entire destiny. But we don't get a chance to experience that now. But now he's like, if that ever comes again, I'm not missing out on it. And it was a great teacher, because that's one of the things we don't realize about the universe. It's not only a great teacher, it's a great student. Yes, it teaches us, but we don't always think about the other side. It's actually learning from us. And if we say we want certain things, but we're not willing to do the things that help us get there, it provides feedback.
Wow.
Like this.
I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation, and I wasn't wrong. I was not wrong. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Listening to you share that story brought up something that I was chatting with a coach actually yesterday about, and it's the relationship between intention and attention.
Ooh.
As it leads to the desired change. And when we think about what our intentions are, and then those attention, our actions related to, and where we put our attention, right, is what leads to change. And so he took the action to meet with you. He took the action to recognize coaching was going to be helpful and beneficial, and yet had resistance around the very thing that may have changed this outcome. And so inside your flexible system that you have with some of your clients, I was reading a little bit about that, and I'm curious to see, it sounds like you start with some structure and then you offer some flexibility. Can you share or elaborate a little bit more about what that looks like for a client that is looking for a little bit of spaciousness and freedom, but perhaps needs a little bit of guidance and structure first?
So this is actually called our structural flexible coaching system, and is built for entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs typically live in the gray, right? Between this and that, they live in the place. Well, this space is actually known as chaos, right? And so then the entrepreneur getting to a place where they're like, I'm firefighting every single day. I'm putting this out. I'm doing this. I'm just exhausted. What do I need to change to be able to change behavior? What do I need to change to be able to get out of this level of chaos? Because they love chaos, just not this much of it. So the idea here is then to start fortifying that gray zone with more and more structure. So that structure then becomes, I don't have to be involved in that conversation. I don't have to make that decision. I don't have to bring all this emotion, effort, and energy to that thing, because the structure already takes care of that. So that's a big part of this. But here's the deal. Even at the best franchisable business model on the planet, you're not going to get to 100% structure. That's not fun for most entrepreneurs. And it's not about necessarily having fun, because really making money isn't sexy. It's something that if you just follow along in the tortoise and the hare concept, right? You just keep going along. That's how you build real wealth. But for most entrepreneurs who are dopamine fiends, right? They're looking for that adrenaline rush. There's got to be some of that flexibility in there to be able to make things happen. But I want to be as clear as I can. If you really want to be successful, and success, by the way, has very different definitions for all of us, but it has one common theme: the ability to duplicate it. That's success. That it doesn't matter what it is. If it's a golf swing, or I'm riding my bike, or anything else that you want to talk about, if it isn't duplicatable, then it's just luck. If you want to take luck and turn it into duplication, you've got to consider structure. Structure helps you duplicate things. And so let's imagine you haven't done your tax return, which is coming up here September 15th for most people, right? And you haven't done that for a whole year. You know, your CPA, I just take this box of receipts over to my CPA and I throw it on his desk or her desk and just make it. Well, what if there was something else you could do so you weren't stressed out of your mind or stressing your CPA out by having a process written out about how you did it last year? And then you just simply pull that file out when it's August of this year, because you know your tax season is coming up because it's right there on your planner, your calendar. And you just grab this folder and it goes, step 1, do this, step 2, and you just do that. And then the task is done at a really high quality level. And it didn't take you as much time, which is another form of profitability, time and money, right? So now I have a process structure to be able to help out with that. I will tell you this, the entrepreneurs I know that build this structure in their world are so fascinated by how much more creative they get to solve solutions in the chaos or gray area, because the energy that it took to be able to do all that other 80% of structure, like figuring out a plan every single time they were doing the same task and project over and over again, all that energy was being wasted that could have been structured to then use with creating innovation for solutions to the marketplace. You give an entrepreneur that kind of power back to them, they're fascinating. They're unbelievable and unstoppable. The work is putting that structure in place so that all that 80% of structure gives me all that energy back for this to solve for right now.
No, it's a really great point. And I think for our, we have some emerging leaders that are often tuning into our podcast. And so if you're hearing what David is saying, you know, really take that to heart. Think about the structure that you need to put around your business. Think about listening to your business more actively, thinking about who do you need to surround yourself with to be successful in doing so. And if you can put those guardrails out, it will free up some space for your innovation, for your creativity, and more spaciousness for what you really love, which for a lot of you is that visionary piece. So thank you so much, David, for that.
Absolutely.
Okay, David. So, you know, we've talked about coaching and leading, and it has just put me in the realm of Doug Reeves' leadership framework: leading, losing, learning, and lucky, right? And leading really speaks to what you were talking about, that duplication or replication, which is what he says, that if you can replicate and duplicate, you are leading at that point. And so I just wanted to just see, how do you approach leadership with your clients, with your team? What does that approach look like for leading in Samurai Success?
Yeah. Wow. What a great question, for the fact that most of us on this planet right now are thinking that we have permission to lead others. I will tell you that for most of the entrepreneurs I know, if I said to them, listen, I'm going to have you let me lead you for the next 5 minutes of your life, most of them will kind of go, no way. That's not going to happen. So what is it about leading? I mean, what we nearly need to do from a research side is just take a look at where most leadership happens, and that's with parents with kids. So if you take it down to the core of really watching parents and their children, how do we lead? By what we say or by what we do? And most of us get to that same answer. It's because what we do, because our kids are constantly modeling what we do, not what we say. So our approach here at Samurai Success is, first of all, if you're going to want to lead other people, start here first. Be exceptional, be your best, because you're going to realize at that point, you're going to have to ask for a huge level of permission to be able to lead other people. But that leadership should come through demonstration, not by what you say or your experience. Because remember, people don't learn from your experience. They learn from their own personal verified experience. So the true leaders that have been in my life have always provided this, an opportunity for me to experience what they could say, but choose not to. And when they lead that way, I'm very thankful to be the man I am because of that kind of leadership style in my life.
I love that. That's true leadership. That's what you just described. Thank you for that.
So you, this is just a great conversation. And Dawn mentioned or alluded to that we have a lot of emerging leaders. We have leaders of all ages listening to our podcast and contacting us. But if you've been in the business for 35 years, what are some of the core leadership qualities that you think remain constant? You just said leader showing up or parenting leadership. But what are that one or two, three core constant leadership abilities that we all need to have as we grow in our businesses and as leaders?
So taking a look at it from a feedback loop, or where I've watched leaders, managers really fail miserably. And the one major thing I've seen is when the leader is not as well educated or informed through experience on the task or project they're actually teaching to somebody else. I will tell you that's the number one reason by far why other people won't follow that. And sorry, they shouldn't, because there's a level of congruency, frequency, if you will, that comes from me knowing what I'm talking about. And we're having a fun conversation right now. I was like, wow, 35 years of experience. Let's see if this guy really knows what the hell he's talking about. And that's good. Thank you for doing this with me. Because if I'm not speaking from a place of authenticity, then you shouldn't be listening to me. And we've really stopped doing that in our world, in our country, and in our own families kind of stuff. We should be looking for that authenticity. How is someone demonstrating this over a period of time? So if I was going to give one suggestion to leaders, it would be what Don and I were talking about earlier, which was you've got to write down the structure of the stuff you're teaching. If you understand that structure, then you should be able to hand that structure, that process, that project idea to someone else in a written format so that they can follow and be successful at that as well. Because I will tell you, winning is fun for all of us. And if you're telling me you want me to do this task or project and you hand me the recipe for that success, and I walk home that day being successful because I know I did that, I'm winning. I feel good about me coming in the next day and doing that. Too much in our corporations today, we're telling people what to do. Now, here's a fascinating thing about human beings. There is a system called visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, and gustatory. These are the 5 senses, right? So visual, auditory, kinesthetic, learn by doing. Olfactory, smell, senses. And by the way, a lot of people are influenced by that, right? That's why we wear perfume and we do all these colognes and stuff. We are wanting to attract things. And then there's this taste thing. So let's just take those other 2 factors out and just go visual, auditory, and kinesthetic when it comes to the business world. Okay. Then you start realizing that as a statistical analysis, visual people on this planet are 25%. Kinesthetic people, 65%. So if I just do some quick math there, right? So I got 89. Oh my gosh, that means 10% of the general public is auditory. I'm counting on you having an auditory way of learning when there's a 90% chance that you are not that. Let's go even further down the rabbit hole. 65% of our children are failing in our educational system. 65%. 65% of our children are kinesthetic. How are we teaching in the university system, in our high schools? Auditory and visual. We're missing the key component for communicating people to take action, because they learn by doing. We're sitting at a desk, writing things, listening to lectures, writing up on the boards, but there's no interaction. It violates the very premise of me being able to learn something new. So as we do this, and we're really talking about this leadership stuff, you got to get to know your people. How do they learn best? Are they visual? Are they auditory? Are they kinesthetic? And by the way, if you have a written process and structure, you cover all 3 of those. Why take a chance? I mean, seriously, if I love you, and that's what we say, hey, these are my people, this is my family. If I love you, then this is my best investment in you. Me writing down the stuff that's in my head and putting it down. but we're not doing that. You got to make the change.
It's interesting because one of the things I do with my clients is I ask them, are we doing this for you? Are we doing this for your next employee? Are we doing this for your next person? And if you look at it that way, then writing down the process so that you can share it with your future HR leader who can share it with the future employees. And I always say to them, you have that mission vision statement that you wrote, it has to go to everybody. So I'm glad that everyone that's listening, I'm finally get reinforcement in this idea of writing things down for the next person in your organization. And that's how you become a leader. And that's how you scale your business because everybody's on the same page. So I agree with you, David.
Yes. It's fascinating because how I got to this belief and this passion for this concept, right, about writing this stuff down was I was at the university and I was studying finance, and I had this remarkable man in my life, beautiful, beautiful man. He spoke 7 different languages, including Swahili. Just mind-blowing guy, just mind-blowing. And I remember writing this paper, and I was totally in a bromance with the guy because really, I just loved everything about him. And I was writing this it was 26 pages long, right? It was my biggest writing, and I was just free flowing with stuff. And I was saying, oh, I'm just so good at what I do, and I can't wait to be above and be on top of the ladder. And I was going to be ahead of all the people because no one can work as hard as I am. I'm disciplined, total ego, just so you know, right? And I'm serious. I get to page 18, and I was like, I'm not rewriting this. And then for the 18 to 26 pages, I started going, oh my God, I'm rising myself up this top of this ladder. And I'm going to then be leading people who haven't worked as hard as I am, aren't as disciplined as I am. I don't have the motivation that I have. What am I going to do? I'm in trouble. He gave me an A- on the paper. He says, it shouldn't have taken you 18 pages to get to that. And he was right. He was just perfectly right. But the thing is that in our marketplace today, we have a very interesting belief system, and it permeates corporate America. And it does it with human beings, right? Just not corporate America, but everywhere. And that is, make yourself indispensable. When you make yourself indispensable, guess what you don't do? You don't write stuff down. Because if I have it and you don't, it makes me competitive, and I've got the secret and you now need me. So it explains there's your programming. This is why we're not doing it. And until we change that programming, it's not going to change the behavior.
Well, I think it's interesting. You've been sprinkling in quite a few examples of lessons that you've learned over the years throughout your journey. And I find it really interesting to offer our listeners some of those lessons so that they can take them and add them as pages in their playbook or in their toolkit. And so is there anything else that you would like to share with our audience that is a leadership lesson, something that you've learned over the years or through your journey that kind of stuck with you just a little bit more than something else, that became a page in your playbook or something that you continue to reflect back to other clients?
So many different life lessons, and so many of them are already in the book. But let me share with something that's not necessarily in the book that really has empowered me to really think differently about this place. So much of my life, I was growing up in different belief systems. And that belief system was, you really shouldn't be taking care of you. The self-love concept was really a bad idea. And I watch it manifest from the ego perspective. And it doesn't really serve anybody else. It's all designed to be able to, do what I'm doing so that I can get more of what I want. There's another way to approach that. And that's what I found my journey has been most expressed with. If I'm truly wanting to be in service of another, then I've got to work on me. I've got to work on this person. I've got to be able to figure out how to get the hell out of the way so I can truly be present with you. And I really can't stress that enough in this work, that if you're really going to be, if I want to make sure there's brownies at the Christmas party, what do I bring to the Christmas party? Brownies. Right. So if I want respect out of the relationship, guess what I've got to bring? If I want love out of the relationship, guess what I've got to bring? Listen, I'm not bringing that unless I'm full. I'm whole. Because if any part of that respect, love, or any other emotion you want to get from another person, if you don't show up with that, it's going to be very difficult to be able to receive it. So why not make it simple? Why not work on you so that when you show up, you're showing up full? You do not need anything else from the conversation so that you can truly be present. Because any part of me that isn't full, isn't bringing somebody to the party, that's the part that's going to need something from the conversation, and it's going to totally distract me from hearing the real miracle of the conversation.
No, thank you so much for that. And I think what I would refer to it as self-leadership, right? And so I see leadership as a privilege, and we have the privilege to lead others. And in order to do that at our best, we need to lead ourselves first. So thank you for that, David.
Beautiful.
Well, David, we truly, truly thank you for being our guest today. I think we've all just learned so much. And I know our audience have learned as well, have really gained so much out of this conversation. And we want to give you the space to share your contact information, any social media information that you would like to share at this time.
Great. Brand new to social media. We've only been on since January, if you can believe that, right? Seriously, 26 years, no marketing dollars, no social media whatsoever. It's been only referral based, which motivates us coaches to really be good at what we do. So it's worked out really well. But samuraisuccess.com is probably the best way to reach us. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn to be able to get access to us. So either one of those 4 ways are great ways to reach out to us. And please, let's continue the conversation.
Absolutely. And guys, our listeners and our viewers, we want to thank you too. Thank you for allowing us to just inform you today with another amazing episode. Again, I am Dr. Sharon H. Porter.
I am Aisha B. Hoy.
And I am Dawn Marie Bornheimer. As you navigate your leadership journey, remember that leading with purpose is not just a philosophy, it's a commitment to a positive impact.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with your network, and don't forget to subscribe so you will never miss an opportunity to explore the intersection of leadership and purpose.
Continue to lead, empower, inspire, and achieve.
And until next time, lead with passion, lead with a positive intention, and by all means, continue to lead with purpose. Thank you for joining the Leading with Purpose podcast. Please join us every Monday for a new episode.